to see how weird to Paul Nicholson.
Way aye. There could be a lot of that in the next half an hour, Dan.
Yeah, it could be.
35.
Glen has been playing well for 20 years. That's the thing that a lot of people might not know.
But not as well as he has over the last 5. That's the thing. He's gone from a guy who says, I wasn't the best player in my pub team,
100.
to being one of the best players on the planet.
But he's humble, and when he says he wasn't the best in his pub team, he probably was. He just didn't want to say it.
But he wasn't. Even in the
99.
video, it took him a while, didn't it? I mean, he wasn't a dominant force, was he? He was an also-ran for a long while.
In food terms, he's an 8-hour slow-cooked chili.
Right.
Because
I knew you'd bring this to food
great
somehow.
ingredients, and then all of a sudden it just bubbles up, and it's just delicious after 8 hours.
I mean, I'm sure he would agree with the sentiment, although Glen seems to deal exclusively with Parmo when it comes to food.
Can't slow cook a Parmo.
97.
It would just be stodgy. It's best not to get into the conversation about Parmos with Glen because he's vigorously passionate about them.
That's a bit odd, isn't it? Glen Durrant
125.
could have left himself a bogey number there, is he? Perhaps not thinking quite clearly. Should be using the 18s at some point there, shouldn't he?
Yeah, I think so. Now, Dobey's got to be creative here. He's got to throw one right over the top.
60.
Not that far over the top. Only met once before. It was recently, and it was an absolutely stonking game of darts. Glen Durrant won it 6-4.
58.
He averaged 96. Dobey averaged more than 106. And it's the best we've seen from Chris Dobey for a while, because he's not exactly been playing his best stuff.
140. Glen, you're 190.
Well, Glen stuttered a bit in the last 6 darts to offer Dobey into this leg, but it may be shut out right now. If he can get 12 in bull.
Can he?
94.
Not very canny.
The Jaguar 70.
This would be canny. Single 20. The double 16. Very nicely done.
Chris Dobey. Second leg is Glen to throw first.
Perhaps nice to just compare and contrast, or at least just look at the similarities between Dobey, who we're watching right now, and Joe Cullen, who we've just seen, because that rhythm in their throw,
98.
the way they go through every single throw in their visits, there is that real metronomic speed to it. And unless they've got to sit and think about where they're going and sort some maths out, or they're slightly worried about the lie of a dart,
100.
it's just the same every single throw, and it lends itself to being able to reproduce excellence over and over and over again.
Correct. Chris Dobey has
100.
arguably, and I'm going to say that with the capital A, because I know there are a lot of people out there who have their favourite actions and techniques, but I may be a little bit biased because he's from a town about 3 miles from where I grew up. But I think Chris Dobey technically may be the best, because there's very little that goes wrong. He's very solid on that front foot, doesn't rock forwards and backwards, and there's very little movement laterally with
99.
that dart when it comes up towards the eye. It's very uncomplicated, and if there are kids out there watching this, if you want to copy someone, copy this lad.
108.
Copy that.
80.
180 to leave, 1-2-1. And that's Dobey, a bit like Jeffrey Desvaughn. They are guys who
96.
people look at and
121.
they haven't hit the heights yet. But people look at them and go, they could do something, because all the ingredients are there. Doesn't have all the ingredients for a 1-2-1 checkout, but it just looks like they've got potential. They may not have climbed as high in the rankings as other players, but darts players and some of the experts will look at him and go, he's one to watch.
How much of that 57 bed can he see? Not enough. Chris Dobey's probably going to be looking at the 16s with this.
56.
And at worst, have a shot at tops to take a 2-0 lead. Going to get 2 at 12s. Only needs 1, and that's clinical. Had a little bit of a stutter yesterday against Willie O'Connor. Had to dig really, really deep, as he did against Kyle McKinstry in qualifying. It's really good to see Kyle almost qualify. I think He may be one to watch next season. He
131.
could be the next Jamie Hughes.
Yeah, had a very disappointing Q school in McKinn Street. He certainly was one that I picked out. I thought he was one to watch. And I know that you were commentating on the Lakeside last year and were very, very impressed with him. I think a lot of people were. Anybody who saw him was.
Yeah, great player. Ireland and Northern Ireland right now are producing an absolute conveyor belt full of players.
Yeah, and Willie O'Connor, who is going to be at the European
100.
Championship, of course. World Cup finalist with Steve Lennon, who does have... Steve Lennon is probably the problematic one at Irish darts at the minute, because he's struggling for the World Championship, which would be a major blow. But Brendan Dolan back winning
96.
titles.
Odd year for Steve, hasn't it? He's World Cup final and very little else.
Yeah, he's a very strange player. I'm a huge fan of Steve Lennon, but just seems to specialise in playing well and losing.
Yeah, last year was a really good chart-topping year for him, and this year's been
58.
Yoko.
Yes. Oh no, indeed.
Well, before we go any further, I just want to echo some sentiments from Glen that he made a couple of weeks ago. He was unable to make the funeral of a fella called Jim Bannister, who was a Cleveland darts legend and someone that I knew as well. And he was a fabulous advocate for darts in the northeast of England, who played county for Cleveland many, many times, and he's going to be sadly missed. And I know that Glen misses him so much.
58.
Well said. But it's business time for these two, and Glen Durrant has not been getting down to business so far in this game, because for a man who has been consistently chucking 100 averages all year,
Richard Guire, 154.
he's a little bit off the pace here. I have to say, I thought Chris Dobey was fortunate to come through against Willie O'Connor. He had a lower average, he was second best for a lot of the game.
Glen Uruguay, 134.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say that you're right there, Dan. Watching that game, I thought he was on the ropes for most of it. Glen looking to leave tops and does
94.
so. But Dobey can get the
90.
halfway point if he can stay straight. Another one of those will be handy. All that for the bigger segment on double five.
85. Glen Uruguay, 40.
One dart missed for a 3-0 lead. If Durrant breaks back here, we're effectively on throw. All around the board we go. Double five missed by Dobey. Double five
35.
missed by Duzza.
Chris Uruguay, 5.
Desmond.
Madhouse.
This is awkward because his flight's in the way. Top left.
Yeah, on the third leg.
Dead
Chrissy.
centre.
Four-legged Glen to throw first.
Create the
Game on.
angle and just hit the middle. Well, for someone with a 3-0 lead, he doesn't look too happy about it.
Well, again, I mean, he's only averaging high 80s here. And to be 3-0 up on Glen Durrant with a high 80s average is almost unheard of this year, to be honest.
Well, we know that Glen can win from any position. I remember a quarter-final at the Lakeside when he was playing against his good friend Jim Williams. It was the first of 5 sets. And Jim was absolutely smoking it. It was a great game. And Glen won it 5-4 in the end. From 4-1 down. So he believes very much so that he can win from any position. 3-0 down, no problem. I'll just get myself back in this by winning my first leg on throw and then bolster my chances after that.
Well, certainly. I mean, I remember when it looked like Glen Durrant might pick up his very first PDC title in his very first weekend of Pro Tour action. As he now picks up the 25 to mean that he's going to get 2 darts, or should at least get 2 darts for the leg. But he was way behind against Dave Chisnell and mounted a stirring fight back. Took it all the way to the last leg decided before losing 8-7. Bounced back the next weekend and won his first title. Now he leaves double 18, a trusty friend.
Yeah, on the fourth leg, Glen Durrant.
That was the double that he hit to get his first title.
Chris to throw first.
The 76 checkout, I believe, wasn't it?
Oh, you're
2020 double 18?
Quite possibly. Beat Dimitri Vandenberg 8-3 back in February to pick up his first PDC title. Took his first steps towards making the world match play.
97.
I actually had a word with Glen a few months ago and I said, have you made your accountant aware that you're not going to be receiving a £100 check in January? The staple payment every winter. And his reply was, it might be more.
96.
Well, there's only one person who will be going to Ali Pali this year who has won world titles for the last 3 years running.
93.
Actually, I've just thought about this. It is conceivable, if Glen wins at Ali Pali, he will hold both at the same time.
Yeah.
And that will have never happened.
32.
Yeah, because Barney didn't do it, did he?
Yeah, Klassen won in 2006.
Yeah. Well, it's history could be made.
The things that come to you in the middle of a match, eh?
Well,
if you say to Glen at some point in the next 6 to 8 weeks that you could be the first person in history to hold both codes world titles, I think that's enough motivation in itself to do all the hard yards.
well, it genuinely looked like he might go
60.
and win the World Match Play at his first attempt. I've seen off Michael Van Gerwen at the Winter Gardens in an emotional display. Took out James Wade with very little bother. But Michael Smith was just too much for him.
He needs that 60 to leave double 18 again. And he gets there, he uses that guide perfectly.
111.
It's a big shot for Chris. This will snap the momentum of Glen.
Great dart. Follows it with another, and that is an absolute peach from Dobey.
First. Game on.
He averaged 106 and lost 6-4 to Durrant just a few weeks ago, but here he is looking to get a bit of revenge and book his place in the final day of a European tour. It has been a decent year for Dobey.
180.
Managed to do things for the first time, like qualify for the match play himself. We will see him at the World Grand Prix.
How big was that weekend in Denmark for him and his career?
Absolutely huge, making the final, losing out to Chizzy in Copenhagen. But he also made the final day in Prague. First round exit in Austria.
121.
Didn't make it to the following Euro Tour event in Mannheim. Finds himself here, looks uninspired against Willie O'Connor. 3 consecutive first round exits on the Pro Tour leading up to this. But 4-1 up on Duzza.
I think the best thing about this year, from a consistency perspective for Chris, has been how many times he's qualified.
Yeah, he's been regularly making these events. Usually a second round exit, to be honest, until that run in Copenhagen.
For a 10 then. And taking 11. He's under no pressure. But he gets rid of it anyway. Classy leg from Duzza.
Tonight's Chris to throw first. Game on.
Let's see Saturday night now.
Well, Glen Durrant has won 2 legs, and they've both been absolutely spectacular. Unfortunately for him, he has been less than spectacular in the other 4.
I've said in the past about the shininess of the Glen Durrant shoes. They are particularly glossy this evening. Taking the mantle of Kevin Painter and the shiniest shoes on tour.
Well, I mean,
96.
There is, in my eyes, no finer judge of that particular award than Paul Nicholson.
96.
Maybe because he's the only person that pays a great deal of attention to it, but certainly pays a lot of attention to it. You want to know who's got the shiny shoes on tour? Nicholson's your man.
You don't get many players these days using pear-shaped flights either. And we did have Christoph Chuk earlier using pear-shaped flights, but the majority of guys use this standard shaped flight that Dobey's using here because it gives the extra drag and a little bit of extra forgiveness. I've always said, and I think we touched on this yesterday, the guys who use the smaller flights, they're the best dart players in the world for me.
Yeah. Well, Dobey actually played another one of the players who used the pear-shaped flight, Willie O'Connor. But you're right, there aren't many. Beaton is one of them. But, I mean, have you tried throwing with the pear-shaped flights?
I had the best year of my career with pear-shaped flights. I was actually told by an expert in ballistics that if I switched from a small standard flight to a pear-shaped flight, I would score more 180s, and he was right. problem was when my form went down the pan,
140.
I kept with the pear-shaped flights because I thought it would work, and what I should have done was go to a bigger flight.
Now, double 16 for Dobey to go within 1.
37.
Misses outside, and is that a key moment in this match?
This is the biggest visit of this match for Glen. He's got to stay in touch. Pick a double. That double is double 16. And that's brilliant.
On the 7th leg, Glen Durrant. 8th leg, it's Glen to throw first. Game on.
One of the things with Duzza, and look, he can score heavy, he hits a lot of 180s, he can take out big combination finishes, he can average big numbers. I mean, he's averaged 116 this year on the tour. I've not seen a higher average.
177.
Case in point, 177 from Duzza. But I maintain that his strongest asset is that there are key moments in games, pressure moments, where he gets one dart at a double and it has to go. And he is one of the most reliable players in the world to take it out. He has got minerals.
He's got experience as well. He's always been a very mature dart player.
99.
Are we going to see the roles reversed, where Glen Durrant averages 106 and loses to Chris Dobey after Dobey did exactly that with Glen?
I'm going to say that Jimmy Greaves. It's a funny old game. How can you possibly lose a dart match where your first name's 120? It's possible.
Well, that's been the key thing.
39.
3-0 down in this game, of course. He's won 3 of the last 4 legs. But Dobey is going to give himself a chance here.
140.
81. And again, we find ourselves in a position where there's a crucial exchange coming up.
Well, Glen would love to get a treble 10. Pressure applied, that's good.
Richard 81.
Question is asked of the Northumbrian.
Didn't like that one.
Make sure of the 12. Make sure of the 12.
41.
Crucial mistake.
56.
Don't miss the big numbers, as we call it.
He's done this once already. Same height. Just to the right. And it's 4 each.
And like it's Chris to throw first. Game on.
Well, big deep breath. Perhaps for the first time in this game, since the very start,
95.
Glen Durrant can just start feeling a bit more optimistic, because you've got the feeling over the last 5 legs, where he's won 4 of them, he has been working and grafting and digging deep and finding a way back into this game. Just keep on doing what you're doing and you can win this one, but
96.
It's not been without little scares. Missed dart in the 7th leg, missed a big number in the 8th leg. Dobey, had he taken those 2, it's game over.
135.
There was a little bit of bounce in the step from Glen at the start of this leg when he was coming back from the water table. It says to me that he is ready to hit the front now. Dobey has rebounded really after that missed first start in the last visit. This is getting very tight indeed. Sensible use of the board from 271, because if you get a single 19, you got 25 and a 60 after that leaves a finish. That's someone who knows the board.
Yeah, it didn't work out for him, but the theory behind it was good.
Oh, 3 times in this leg, twice from Durrant to respond after a poor first start. Another would be handy.
96. Glen Uruguay 145.
Chris Dobey's throw. You have to say it. It's advantage.
He won't take the 145, but he is going to leave himself on a very, very straightforward checkout.
137.
Oh, I like that. Didn't even mess with the bullseye. Aggressively went to leave double 4. Very rarely you see that these days on 65. People using that treble 19. That's a seasoned shot. Dobey can't take out the 133, so it is advantage Durrant. Can he get himself in front for the first time?
3-0 and 4-1 down, and Glen Durrant has turned this game on its head. And Dobey just ruefully shaking his head. He hasn't had a hatful of opportunities, but he has had little ones.
100.
But Dozer will punish you. Once again, he shows that when there's a big moment in the game, he is able to step up and deliver. He is a winner.
94.
And he's set to post the second highest average of the tournament so far right now, averaging more than 106, Dozer.
You may have just come up with a really good walk-on song for Glen, because he has been flip-flopping between a few songs lately. How about Stand and
96.
Deliver by Adam and the Ants? Not a fan?
I mean, New Romantic's probably a bit more your era than mine, Nico.
Oh, thanks for your help, Dan.
57.
We can't all have a great walk-on song like Ryan Joyce, where it's Ryan time. That's brilliant.
It's the second time you've sung in commentary.
Yeah, I love it. It's great. It's a pity he doesn't really work himself up to it, the Geordie.
96.
Well, the Geordie in this match, Chris Dobey, is behind the 8 ball. Glen Durrant is looking to put him away and chalk one up for Cleveland.
56.
And it looks like Chris Dobey's race is run. He's been better than he was against Willie O'Connor. It was good enough to beat the Magpie, but it's not good enough against Dozer tonight. Really did look like it might be when he was 4-1 up in this one.
97.
But just little fleeting chances. A missed dart for 5-2. A missed big number when he could have made it 5-3.
140.
Bare minimum there from Chris
112.
to get himself into the finishing zone. But Glen on one of those shot outs that has an out. And Chris on a 3% shot. It's unlikely that he's going to get it, but he has the ability, and he has a little bit of a slip from Glen. He's only scored 4 there, but he has
61.
recovered brilliantly.
Victory require 154.
Well, 2 shocking darts, but a great one that might rescue his chances. But Chris Dobey could steal it away from him on double top. Oh, didn't even get close.
I think someone shouted out when
Glen
he had that, and Dobey is
51.
livid. And I think Glen's not happy either. That was naughty.
Right, needed a miracle shot there from Chris Dobey. He had a crack. But it's a miraculous turnaround from Glen Durrant. He has averaged pretty much 104 in that one and won it 6-4. His second 6-4 win against Chris Dobey in a